Good morning. Have you ever heard of a fish that didn't get away? Well, this fish definitely didn't. In northeast Brazil lived a family that had recently joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Like most of the people in the area, they made their living by fishing. All along the coast perched thousands of fish traps, many of them 100 feet long. That's a long trap. The fish caught in those traps are huge. Often they measure 6 feet long and weigh more than 100 pounds. That's why the people use traps to catch them. They're too big and heavy to haul on a line. They might pull the person into the water instead. After this family had joined the Adventist church, they continued to fish to make their living. But there came a time when no one in the village was catching fish in their traps, including this Adventist family. Eventually, they ran out of money. They borrowed for a while, but soon no one would lend them any more money, and no one would sell them food or clothing or anything else they needed. They didn't know what to do. Then one Friday afternoon, about 2 o'clock, after many weeks had gone by with no fish being caught, a fish swam into the Adventist man's trap. He went out in his boat with his son, and they pulled the big fish into their boat and took it back to shore. There they cleaned it, sold it, and rejoiced. About 7 o'clock that evening, just before the Sabbath, a neighbor who happened to be out in his boat inspecting his traps passed by their fish trap. He saw another fish in it. As quickly as he could, he found the Adventist man and told him, "There's another fish in your trap." The Adventist man looked toward the west and saw that the sun was about to go down. "I can't go out and get it tonight," he informed the man. "Why can't you?" asked his neighbor. "Because the Sabbath is coming on very soon. I would be breaking the Sabbath if I took care of that fish after the sun went down." The surprised neighbor warned him, "If you don't go and get that fish, it might get away, or someone else might take it." The Adventist man nodded and replied, "I'm going to keep the Sabbath holy, even if that fish gets away." Then the Adventist father got his boys and girls together and they prayed, "Jesus, please take care of that fish out there in our trap. We want to have it tomorrow night after the Sabbath is over. Please take care of it." They went to bed that night, but word had gotten around the village that there was a fish in that man's trap, and he wasn't going to take it out on Friday night because it was the Sabbath. The people shook their heads and said, "That man is crazy." The next morning, the family had another prayer before they went to Sabbath school. "Jesus," they prayed, "you brought that fish into the trap. Now please keep it there until the Sabbath is over." After they came home from church, they prayed again. As soon as the sun went down that night, the father and son went out in their boat to get that fish, if it was still there. How they hoped it was. They took their lamp and looked into the trap. Suddenly the boy shouted, "Here it is, Daddy!" Then they looked a little farther. There was another fish, and another, and another. The trap was full of huge fish. It took them all night long to get them out. All night long, and all the next day, until past noon. Would you like to know how many 6-footers they got out of that trap? They got 122. Besides those 122 large fish, they retrieved hundreds of small ones, 2 or 3 feet long. In fact, they caught so many fish that when they sold them, they were able to pay off all their debts, and they still had money left over. Now here's another interesting part of the story. How many fish do you suppose were caught in the other traps right beside theirs? Not one fish was caught in the other traps. You know what that makes me think of? The same God in heaven who led the sheep and lions and elephants into the ark led those big fish into that fish trap. And what was the final result? What did the people in the village think who had said this Adventist man was crazy? Already 4 of them had been baptized into the Adventist church because they say that a God who will bless faith and obedience like that is the God who they want to serve and obey. Are you and I being faithful in our Sabbath observance as were that man and his family? Let's remember this text. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. You can go back to your seats now.